Would you rather be a blind cat, a deaf dog, or a human who is both blind and deaf? I'm Chris Drabble. This is my stream of Subconsciousness, the third instalment. Welcome. It's set to be a goodie, this episode. 20 minutes of material that will evoke thought. Just like the question I opened with. Of course, that doesn't evoke so much thought because it's obvious what you'd choose. You'd take the human and you'd adopt the dog and the cat. You'd train the dog to be your eyes. You'd train the cat to be your ears. So that one doesn't require much thought. But it is my goal in this episode to get your brain juices flowing. If you do have juices in your brain, I'm not sure you do. Might just be cells in that, neurotransmitters. But use your thinking cap. Actually, I don't believe in thinking caps. There shouldn't be any limit to how much someone can think. Salary caps, yeah, they're important. We saw what happened to the Melbourne Storm a couple of years ago when they exceeded their salary caps. They were effectively booted from the competition. So some caps are good, some caps are bad. We've been cleaning our flat furiously today. A lot of grime around the place. Places I don't even think there could be grime. Like in drawers. You know, drawers aren't really exposed to the elements where grime could accumulate from. But I opened up a drawer and sure enough there was evidence of grime. Evidence being the grime itself. So there's been all sorts of nooks and crannies that I've been getting my brush into, getting it nice and clean for the inspection, which is tomorrow. And we failed the last one miserably. I say failed. I didn't really get the sense of failure when they told us that the house wasn't up to standard. Mainly because I didn't really care. They're coming into my house and telling me that it's too dirty. Well, they're not living here. I am. I like dirt. If you want to move in, then sure, that's fine. Then you can have a say. Actually, I wouldn't let you move in because we're not mates. I don't like you very much. When the dishwasher breaks, you take 4 weeks to fix it. It took you 2 months to get the spa going, and I don't even like spas. I was just trying to get you to do some bloody work. Slack. So, that's what's happening. At this stage in my life. But this episode, this show, not about me. It's about everything and anything, which I guess does include me, but I try not to speak about myself too much. I'd like to focus on you as the listener and your neighbour, people around you. You might not have neighbours. You might live isolated somewhere like Gore. Do they have neighbours in Gore? Probably not. But whatever happened to those days when neighbours actually cared? They'd bring around ice cream containers full of baking, full of ginger crunch. Don't ask me why they choose ginger crunch. Jesus, if you're going to bring around baking, bring around some brownie. Bring around some muffins or something. Ginger crunch just sits there on the bench and goes stale. No one wants that rubbish. But seriously though, neighbours used to care. It's a childhood memory of mine, having good neighbours that cared. Now, I don't like to slag off my neighbours because they might be listening, probably won't be, because they're not within my demographic of 7 listeners, but everything's changed now. My current neighbours, we're always having these altercations about noise, about parking, just trivial things. I mean, what's happened? Maybe I should move to Gore, where there are no neighbours. I wouldn't have much to whinge about then, though, would I? In my stream of subconsciousness. So it's a bit like a double-edged sword in that regard. What? What does double-edged sword mean? Why did I specify it's a double-edged sword? Of course it's double-edged. It's a sword. What kind of gladiator would go out and fight with a sword with one edge? He's severely disadvantaged, isn't he? Hold on, Lion. Could you just move a bit over to my right side? I can't get you when you're on my left. I haven't sharpened that edge of my sword. There I go again, evoking thought. Question everything, and you shall find answers, as well as irritate a lot of people, I'd imagine. No one likes someone who questions everything. It gets annoying after a while. Tone it down. Grant's with me again today. He's been working hard as well, actually, trying to source a new and improved jingle for Chris Drabble's stream of Subconsciousness. He realised that the one he's chosen doesn't really fit the genre. So good on you, Grant. Good on you for jacking that up. I look forward to hearing that. When will that be ready? Oh, he reckons that we might have that ready for episode 4. So that's the next episode. Revamped with a brand new jingle. So that's Grant, finding new ways to improve my product. You've always got to be striving to make your product better. It's like the batteries in my wireless mouse were running out, so I went to the supermarket to get some more, and I saw Energizer, and then I saw Energizer Max, 3 times longer lasting. Well, I'll take those ones then. Why would I take the normal ones when these ones are the same price, 3 times longer lasting? In fact, why don't you just make them normal Energizers, then just call the other ones something like Energizer Inferior? Fucks out 3 times faster than normal Energizer. And you see that all through the supermarket. Painkillers, Panadol versus Panadol Rapid, absorbed up to 2 times faster for quicker pain relief. Oh no thanks, I think I'll have my headache for a bit longer. Cheers, I'll just take the normal ones. As soon as a product is improved, the old model should become redundant. It's not as good, don't sell it anymore. Why would we as consumers want anything less than the best? Case in point, the household dryer. When I was putting in my clothes last night to be dried, I noticed on the settings, light dry, medium dry, or extra dry. Why would anyone choose anything other than extra dry? Oh, just press light dry. I just want my clothes a little bit damp, please. I don't know, I don't understand. My clothes are damp within a day of taking them out of the dryer anyway because it's so damp in my room. There's no ventilation. I've got water dripping down my walls like a water feature. It's more of a mould feature now. I need some exit mould. Or maybe some exit mould plus. Put that on the shopping list. Aren't shopping lists important? If you don't write one, then 9 times out of 10, you'll get home from the supermarket and you would have forgotten to pick up something essential. My flatmate writes these wonderful lists. She writes everything down in the order that you'd work your way around the supermarket. So you've got things like your produce first, and then your milk and your butter and your dairy products. So by the time you've got to the end of the supermarket, you've gone through all the aisles, you should have hopefully picked up all the items, and it saves you from going all the way down to choose a beer, what kind of beer you want, and then you realise you've forgotten to buy a fucking carrot, so you have to walk all the way back to the produce section, which is actually quite far, and you know, when you're pushing a trolley, it's quite tiresome, so it's a real time saver in that sense, although it does waste a lot of time when you're rushing around trying to find a piece of paper and a pen to actually write the list, because let's be honest, it's pretty damn hard to find a piece of paper and a pen in the modern day household. It's sort of obsolete these days, writing things down, pen and paper. Everything's computerised now. My mum still sends me handwritten letters, and I love it. I love reading them. But writing them always seemed a little bit arduous. I sent one to her a few weeks ago, and I had forgotten how to write a letter, to be honest. I made a mistake, and I forgot how to get rid of it. I was trying to find the delete button. I realised you just have to cross it out, or use something called Twink. So I tried that. Forgot how to do capital letters as well. Usually I just hold down Shift, but you can't do that when you're writing a letter. It's a bit tricky. And then you can't just press send. There's more of a lengthy process to sending a handwritten letter than that. You have to, first of all, find a bloody envelope. Search the house high and low for one of them. I eventually found one, and then realised that I had to put a stamp on it. And once I'd done all that, I put it there on my desk, and it just sat there. It just sat there for a week. It just seemed like too much of a task to send it. And then one day I thought, no, I'll do it. I'll send the letter. So I took it with me on the way to the shops in the car, and then it stayed in my car for a week. I just drove it round for a week, showed it the sights of Wellington, until eventually it got the better of me, and I found a post box and I put it in. But that was a 2-week process sending that letter, as opposed to a 2-second process of sending an email. So you can see why it's redundant. But Mum was thrilled. She was stoked to receive that letter from me, probably because she would have known how hard it is to actually physically send a letter. Maybe I'll send her a telegram next. She'd love that. But Mum's tech savvy as well, as most parents are these days. You've got to keep up with the times, don't you? You can't fall behind. Otherwise, technology just becomes daunting. It's there for a reason, you know. Use it, make the most of it. I'm complaining about driving around trying to find a post box. Think about the days before people drove around, before there were even cars. People just got around by horses, until eventually someone did a little bit of work on their horse in the garage, tweaked it a little bit and created the engine. And then the modern day car came about. I'd prefer a horse. You don't need to pump gas into a horse. I barely pump gas into my car. It's so expensive. Actually, the petrol light on my car has burnt out because it was just constantly on, and it's packed it in now. Doesn't even work. So I can't tell when I'm running low on petrol. I just assume that I always am. You can't really afford to put in a full tank of petrol at a time. If you've got a scooter, it's a bit cheaper. Scooters are really cheap, actually. I used one to get around for a wee while, and I'd end up spending more on the in-store specials at Shell than the actual gas itself. If anything, that's just a testament to how expensive their specials are. They're not specials. Don't offer me those specials again, please. But there's pros and cons about every vehicle. Scooters don't have much storage space, like a car would. If you go and do your grocery shopping, you end up having to drive home with a bok choy tucked under your arm. And there's other cons to do with scooters. The first time that I got onto a scooter, I came to the realisation that I was in fact still outside. There's no encapsulation like you have with a car. So you're exposed to the elements, and especially in Wellington, wind and rain, you just have to deal with it. Grant drives a scooter, don't you, Grant? And how much does that cost you a week in petrol? Yeah, $12, about $12 it costs, Grant. So you'd be able to afford that easily, wouldn't you? Oh, you're struggling, are you? No, I told you I can't afford to pay you. I'm not making any money from this. Look, mate, when I get famous, we'll talk about payment options. When I get famous, you won't even be driving a scooter. You'll be driving a jet. You'll be flying from A to B. You like B, don't you? You visit B quite a lot. Yeah, well, imagine flying there next time. It's a whole new level. So be patient. Be thankful you don't have to take a bus. Gee, I've had my fair share of buses in Wellington. Awful. I tell you, the best place to take a bus is Samoa. I don't mean take a bus to Samoa. You can't actually catch a bus to Samoa. You have to take a plane. But once you're in Samoa, take a bus there. Gee, it's an experience. It's not your typical mundane bus trip like you'd have in Wellington. Oh, it's joyous. The buses are wooden. There's no windows. It's all just open air. They have a huge sound system which just feeds out beats so loud that you can't talk to the person next to you. And in fact, the person next to you isn't even next to you. They're on top of you. They sit on top of each other because there's not enough room. They're not as big as our buses, which is strange because you think they would have built them a little bit bigger considering the size of your average Samoan. But that's just Samoa for you. I don't think anything is particularly thought out in Samoa. After the tsunami, they were devastated. They were a devastated nation. They adopted a warning bell system for tsunamis. So they'd ring a bell if there was a warning, an official warning that a tsunami was on its way. The trouble was, they also had a bell for every meal time. Meal time is something to be celebrated in Samoa. And they'd ring a bell for breakfast, lunch and dinner. So effectively we had 3 tsunami warnings a day. And they'd run. The bell would go and they'd run. Not from the tsunami, they're running to get their lunch. If there was an actual tsunami bell in one of those time slots that wasn't breakfast, morning or lunch, I don't think they'd move particularly hastily. But they love food. And that's what there is to do in Samoa. You eat. It's brilliant. We all love eating, so why not celebrate it? Keep a good balance between eating and exercise. I joined a gym about half a year ago, and I'm enjoying it. Not so much the cardio side of it. I find cardio a bit boring, running on the treadmill. I was running on it last week, and it tells you your heart rate, which I guess can be handy. I'm not that interested in it. But I was slightly concerned when it said my heart rate was 0. I'd been running for about 7 minutes, and my heart rate suddenly dropped to 0. I had to get one of the trainers to come over and reassure me that I was in fact alive. He said I was, so that was a relief. But the treadmill had just malfunctioned. And that's why I don't think you need machines, expensive things for cardio. Just go for a run outside. You don't need to run on a treadmill. And I don't go to the gym for cardio. I go to the gym to try and build up body weight rather than lose it. And in fact, I've put on 11 kilos in the last 6 months or so. That's 22 blocks of butter. I threw up immensely after eating that much butter. I won't do that again. There's better and more effective supplements you can use to gain weight. There's a whole world of sports supplements out there. Thousands, literally thousands and thousands of them. So it's hard to know what to take if you're looking to pack on some weight. The most effective one I discovered was a product called Food. It seems to work for me. So I'll continue to use it. Some people abuse it. Some people go overboard with food. Those people are called fat people, and they've got their body to show for their overindulgence. That doesn't seem to stop them, though. They continue to eat, and they continue to grow. Grant's flashing the red light at me. He's set up a system where the light flashes when I'm closing in on my 20-minute mark so that I know when to wrap it up. Cheers for that, Grant. It's actually alright though, I don't really need that. I've got a timer on my screen so I can see the time myself. But good on you. Did you do all the wiring for that yourself? Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, because the power plug down there is sparking. You might want to get onto that. I'd probably just uninstall the whole system. It's not really necessary, but good on you. So that's Grant, being thoughtful. And I hope you at home have had some thought inspired from listening to this podcast. That is my goal. Also, I hope you have had a bit of a laugh. We all need a bit of a laugh to get through the day. The day might be over, in which case the laughing isn't really necessary. If you're listening to this at night, laughing won't help you get through the day because you're already through it. But might help you sleep better. So, good night, sweet dreams. Just remember, episode 4 out next week, and that will be revamped with a brand new jingle. I look forward to hearing what Grant puts together for that. Grant, can you just switch that light off? Look, it's catching fire.